I get on the doors a lot during this campaign is questions about the cost of living. And many of the things that I hear about include the cost of living as it relates to home ownership or rent. So I want to talk about some of the stats that are in Canada right now with regard to housing. So first of all, over the last several years since Justin Trudeau has come to office, the number of homes per 1,000 Canadians has been falling. We in Canada right now have the least amount of homes per 1,000 people in the G7. The Liberals' $70 billion national housing strategy, many people have sort of panned this as a failure as well. You remember Justin Trudeau promised this years ago. The parliamentary budget officer actually highlighted its, quote, limited impact. And I don't need to tell you this because any of you who are trying to afford rent right now, or if you are in the market for a home, or if you have kids that are in the market for a home, you know this. You know that home ownership is becoming increasingly unattainable, if it's not already unattainable, for many Canadians. In fact, under Justin Trudeau, Canada has seen the largest yearly increase in home prices in the last 34 years. So really, I just don't think the Liberals have a leg to stand on this issue. I've talked to you before about the inflationary pressures in Canada writ large, about how spending, Justin Trudeau's debt spending, has really increase the cost of everything in Canada, be it groceries, rent, whatever. We are seeing a cost of living, but there's some specific issues related to housing that we as a Conservative Party, we want to address, because frankly, if we can't address the housing crisis in Canada, we've got big problems with regard to economic growth and frankly equity across the country. And we know, based on what I've just said to you, Justin Trudeau has really failed, and he can't be believed to be able to deliver on any promises that he's making. So what is our plan? So should a Conservative government be formed, this is going to be a big issue for us because we know how much it impacts each and every one of you. So this is what our plan is. First of all, we are making a firm commitment to get 1 million homes built in Canada over the next 3 years. So how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, there's a lot of things we can do that Trudeau hasn't been doing right now. So you might not think about this as part of the solution, but it really is. We are going to try and build public transit infrastructure that connects homes and jobs by bringing public transit to where people are buying homes. And this is really important for me in my community in Calgary, Nose Hill. Many people in north central Calgary, we really don't have adequate access to transit because the Green Line, this big project that I've been advocating for years, and actually secured some funding for in 2015, it hasn't been built by our city council. So we want to make sure that transit infrastructure is coming to places where home ownership is occurring or home building is occurring, so that there is that capacity to get to other parts of an urban center. The other thing that we would be looking at is looking at the real estate portfolio of the federal government. I don't know if you know this, but the federal government actually is the largest property owner in the country. It has over 37,000 buildings. We're going to release at least 15% of that for housing while improving the federal lands initiative. So I think that's innovative. That's pretty cool too. We're also going to incent developers to build housing Canadians both want and need by encouraging Canadians to invest in rental housing, by extending the ability to defer capital gains taxes when selling a rental property, and reinvesting in rental housing, something that's currently excluded under the existing rules. And we're also going to explore converting unneeded office space to housing. We've also got a specific strategy for Indigenous communities. But we also know that some of the increase in real estate prices is related to foreign investment and foreign ownership of homes in Canada. So we are going to implement a comprehensive change to the Proceeds of Crime and Money Laundering Terrorist Financing Act and give FinTrack, law enforcement and prosecutors tools necessary to identify, halt, and prosecute money laundering in Canadian real estate markets. This is a huge thing because I hear reports of this anecdotally from people across the country. We're going to establish a beneficial ownership registry for residential property to make sure that these sorts of things aren't happening. And we're also going to, for those of you who might be listening from British Columbia, there was a commission of inquiry on this issue, and we're going to take those recommendations and explore them and see where there is opportunity for the federal government to intervene to make sure that we're taking that seriously. And that's something that Justin Trudeau has not done. The other thing that we're going to do on this issue, because like that's a good start, is that we're going to make sure that housing in Canada is for Canadian citizens and residents first. So we're going to make sure that those who are buying property in Canada have an intent to live here, essentially. That's what our plan says. So what we're going to do is we're going to ban foreign investors not living in or moving to Canada from buying homes here for a 2-year period, after which it will be reviewed. So essentially what we're saying is, look, there's markets in Canada, particularly in Vancouver and in Toronto, where we've seen this type of pressure on the market, and it's pricing Canadians who live and work here out of the market in many situations. So I think that's a huge commitment. That's something that Trudeau could have done over the last 6 years, and he just refused to do that. But for people who want to invest in Canada, we would encourage foreign investment into purpose-built housing, rental housing that would be affordable to Canadians. So rather than just taking incenting investment into real estate that's just driving up the price of homes in certain markets, we would see that redirected or into investments that would make a material impact on you. We've also got a plan to make mortgages more affordable and a detailed plan to address homelessness as well. I guess the point that I'm trying to say to you here is this is an issue that we've put a lot of thought into over the last several years, particularly as we've watched Justin Trudeau completely get this issue wrong. And we know how important it is to every one of you. I want to give my colleague in British Columbia, Brad Viss, a big shout out for this. He's done a lot of research, a lot of consultation on this issue, and a lot of the policy recommendations that he's heard from people like you across the country made it into our platform. So, you know, when I think about what I've watched Trudeau do over the last several years, you know, the We Charity scandal, SNC Lavalin, his out of control spending where, you know, like the We Charity scandal is a perfect example. It's $1 billion that went to, you know, into this scandal plagued transaction. That's what you get from the Justin Trudeau Liberal government, and that's not going to decrease your cost of living. It's not going to make home ownership more affordable for you, and he's had 6 years to deliver on these things, and he hasn't done it. We've got a plan, and we know that we can implement this, that is going to materially impact your life, and maybe the life of your kids, or somebody that you know, so that dream of being able to have home ownership could be attainable, but also for many low-income Canadians where rent is unaffordable and unattainable right now, that we're starting to see some change in there. Because housing and homelessness, if we're not addressing those issues, we don't have an equitable society, and we also, frankly, have some challenges with regard to economic growth. So that's where our priority has been. I encourage you to read this plan. This is an election where you absolutely need to be reading the plan of the Conservative Party of Canada. It's got some really good stuff in there, but it's conservative.ca/plan, specifically with homelessness and home affordability. Read that. I would also ask you one other thing that would really help on this issue. If you know somebody that this is an issue for them, that this is something that you hear them talk about, share this video with them, and just share this video on your feed and help me get this word out there, that we, the Conservative Party, has a compassionate, strong, realistic plan to address home prices and the affordability of rent. And I think it's really smart. It's going to work well. Anyway, this is an exciting plan, and I'm really happy to talk about it on The Doors, which is what I'm about to do. I was out all day today, had great response in the community, and my volunteer team and I, we're just about to head out again for the evening shift. So share this video, tell your friends, and I think this is a really hopeful plan for Canada. Working hard for you in Calgary. Have a great day.